Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our weekly sales call. Just wanted to thank you all for your time this morning. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend and are having a great start to this new year. It's been about a month now that we've been doing these presentations, and I just want to thank you all for your time. It's been great. I know a lot of you have been prompted to asking questions and really making some changes in the way you're handling things so that you can be in a better position to be more successful with this endeavor. So it seems like we're doing what we're tasked with here. But anyhow, today I'm going to be talking to you all about financing and why project financing plays such an important role in the sale of any kind of RMR service, whether it's a maintenance contract, it's video monitoring, it's managed access. Doesn't really matter what it is, but the bottom line is that financing can make your job as a salesperson much, much easier. So that's what we're going to really talk about today is understanding it and how this applies to you. Now, as you can see, this presentation is one that we've done before at PSA Tech last year, and I'm going to keep to our 30-minute time segment this morning, but feel free to call if you want to elaborate on anything. If you have any specific questions, use the Q&A at the end, and we'll be happy to address those questions going forward. So let's go ahead and kind of dive in and get started. What we're going to do right now is talk a little bit about the proposal process and how to incorporate financing as you're putting together a proposal. What questions you need to ask your client from the beginning, so that way you can position this in a way where it's sort of expected. What questions you should anticipate from your client and how to be prepared to answer those questions. And lastly, the different kinds of programs that are available to us through our partner at Susquehanna Bank. So first, let's kind of take a step back a bit and look at, well, why are we talking about this today? I mean, what we're after is RMR, and, financing doesn't really bring us any additional revenue, per se. So why would I, as a salesperson for an integration firm, care about this? Well, first of all, that first bullet, that elimination of sticker shock, is a biggie. Why does that matter? Well, basically, what your clients are probably feeling is that they have, they have some goals, and they're hearing about new services. They're being educated on ways that they can enhance their protection of their people and their assets. But they're probably wondering, and how much am I, how much extra am I going to have to spend to have all these bells and whistles? And for many of you, I think you've tried selling the service as sort of an add-on to a system that you have in place, and you can't do that. You can't have it be an add-on. It's got to be that the services are what make the solution. So by having financing, you can eliminate some of that sticker shock, incorporated with the idea of an upfront capital investment plus some ongoing fees. In addition to that, like I said, you can roll in the ongoing maintenance, so it makes it easier to position a maintenance agreement with these opportunities. You can add things on. So what's awesome is that when you really dive into your customer's situation, and, well, they've given us, X amount of money to deal with, and it's coming out of this kind of budget. Once you really identify what resources they have, and we'll talk a little bit more about what questions to ask to get those answers, but you'll be in a position to know, well, they would really like to have, additional camera coverage, or they would really like to have megapixel cameras in these areas. But maybe from a budget standpoint, they were looking at something that was a little bit watered down because they didn't have the money to really get what they want, what they need, what you recommend. So you can add more to your proposal, give them more, and keep them at a reasonable monthly budget. In addition to services, financing is also a sticky sale for your clients, meaning that it keeps them tied to you for a long time. So what's great is, say you sign up for a 3-year finance, and 2 years later, somebody else knocks on your customer's door. And you've been there for them. They have no reason to gripe about your customer service. I mean, they're satisfied. You know, traditionally, if someone else knocks on your customer's door, you wouldn't even know about it unless you have that close of a relationship with them. But if they wanted to add cameras, if somebody just caught them at the right time and gave them answers or solutions that they were looking for, you could very easily lose that customer. And I think we've all been there, where we go back to visit somebody, do a little sales visit because you're in the neighborhood, and you see that there's additional hardware, and you're not the one that installed it. You know, how embarrassing is that? So what's nice about this financing option is, because you are tied to the account as the associated vendor with the bank, if somebody tries to come in and add new things to their system, the client calls the bank and says, hey, you know, I just wanted to add some new stuff. How will this affect my monthly payment, or how can I finance it in, roll it in? They will notify you. You will find out that your customer is shopping, or at least someone's approached them, or they're looking into investigating additional security. Also, because they pay monthly for the finance, they're going to see your name every month. So every month they're going to see that invoice coming through with, you know, oh, I got to pay for my security from ABC Security Systems. And what that does is it reminds them of who you are. Prompt payment. You know, you sales folks, I don't know, some of you might not get your commission until invoices have been paid. I think it's a pretty common thing in our industry. And so what's really cool about financing is that you collect from a bank. You don't collect from the end user. They deal with the end user. So you can get your funding the same day that installation's been completed. So it can help your company that you work for cash flow better, which is important in the health and the overall wealth of your company. And then on top of that, you get your commission faster. You can close larger projects, like I mentioned, by having add-ons and things like that. You can get them more for their money. And we'll talk a lot about that forward, about helping you generate RMR. I mean, that's the whole point of all of this. Now, one thing that I knew was a concern of some of my dealers as we were talking about this program was the monitoring. The way it works, okay, is basically you'll have all of your normal standard paperwork proposals. When you go to your customer, you'll have your proposal that incorporates anything you're installing, any installation costs, any, or I should say labor hours, and any monitoring or maintenance or management that you're going to be doing for them. And then you include an application, a finance application, which is really easy to do. And basically, once you give them that and they send back the application, approval can be within 24 hours. Underwriting is pretty quick. They'll come back to you really quickly from the processor if they need more paperwork. And then after they get past that sort of process and everything moves forward, you order your equipment, hopefully from TSA, and then you get your equipment, you perform the installation, and once that installation is done, what will happen is you will get that certificate signed by your customer that states that, yes, indeed, everything is installed and working properly. And as soon as the bank receives that, they'll wire the money to you. Now, what's great is not only do they wire the money for the hardware and all that kind of stuff, but they'll also send you 1 month monitoring up front. or excuse me, 1 year's worth of monitoring up front. So if you got a 3-year monitoring contract, they'll send you that first 12 months from the outset when you first close that deal. So that's great for cash flow. Also with your customer, they don't have to pay you monthly for the monitoring and then pay the financing company for the lease. Everything is one monthly payment. So it simplifies that process for your customer. And on top of all of that, you still own the monitoring contract. And people found out that we roll that into the payment. They were concerned that would I lose the value of that contract, and the bank now own the monitoring contract, and that is not the case. They do it all entirely as a pass-through. They don't charge any interest for the monitoring or maintenance that you add on to that monthly payment. The only thing that's applied an interest payment towards is the hardware and the installation cost. So what do you do pre-sale? First of all, like I mentioned, you have your proposal put together. They have an online calculator that's really easy to use. I actually just went to do something on it, and it looks like they're maintaining it right now. I think they might be updating the rates. So I can't demonstrate it for you during this call, unfortunately, but what I will do is send a link out to it. And you can use the Susquehanna calculator to calculate what the monthly payment would be. Typically, I only give them at most 2 options to your clients. I would only give them a 3-year or a 5-year quote. They don't need to see all the options in between. Typically, they know which they prefer. I'd say that 3-year is probably the most common that I've seen, but 5 years gives them, some more time and lower payments. You also need to, as you start, really selling into this customer company, you need to identify who makes their financial decisions, not just their security decisions, not just their, what's really common now is IT decisions, but also financial decisions. If you have a project that is exceeding $50,000 in annual spend, get Susquehanna to help you sell it. Help them. I mean, they are on our side. They want to help close these deals. They've done some flexible programs that I've seen work out with clients that are relatively new to the business that they're in, or just different kinds of challenges that you might assume, wow, you can't finance that. They've really got some creative thinking and creative people on their team. So definitely leverage Donna and her team to help you with those larger projects. So once you're in the sale process, you want to present the monthly payment proposal. Don't give them an option. Don't say, well, we can finance it and your monthly payment would be $1,000 a month, or you can pay $25,000 up front and then $500 a month for your monitoring and maintenance or what have you. You should always quote them just a simple monthly payment. And what will happen is they'll ask, well, why? It'll be different. You'll stand out. It won't be what they expect, right? Especially if you're in a competitive situation. Everybody else is going to be line item by line item, trying to find ways to compete with, margin. And this gets you kind of out of that numbers game, to be honest, because while they can always reverse engineer the math if they really wanted to figure out how much everything is costing them, they could probably do it. But generally speaking, from the people I've seen that really are working this program and are incorporating it as their everyday regular sales process, it's giving them that differentiation. It's unique, so it's helping them stand out, which is a good thing. It's not something to be scared of, okay? And then also, they're inclined to consider it. Sometimes they say, you know what, I'm really not interested in the financing, but I do want the monitoring. I do want some of those services, but who knows how long they have to fight with their board or their committees and get the money for the security. So sometimes that's a battle or it's a process they're not interested in taking, which is fine, but it can help you still sell monitoring. Also, life cycle management is a big thing. I think we all know what that means in the IT context. You know, every year you update so many of your laptops, your desktops. You update your operating software. You update your Exchange server. You know, every so often you do these things, so that way you're not in a situation 5 or 10 years later where nothing works, nothing's compatible, nothing is working properly. Everybody's working on different systems. No, that's not the right thing to do. And what's happening in security is it's kind of haphazard, you know, add-ons. You know, they're, you know, I think we all like when we win takeover business, but man, how about losing it? You know, that's a bad feeling, right? So when you're trying to position financing, regardless of the monitoring or managed services, it's really a great tool for general lifecycle management, because if change scenarios, if in that 3-year finance you sold, 2 years down the road your customer calls you and says, hey Joe, I'd really like to add some cameras, or we're expanding, or we're adding a new location, or we had an incident, we didn't have coverage, or whatever the reason for the phone call is. They call and they say they want more. What they can do is keep that monthly payment the same and extend the term. So if they were in, you know, if they were in month 24 of a 36-month finance, instead of it ending after that initial 36 months, they might extend it an additional 12 or 24 months from that point to incorporate any add-ons. But what's great is they can hold that payment constant. So your customers can know that upon, you know, getting that financing deal in the first place, their security is always going to cost them a standard fixed amount each month. And on top of that, that month carries into the next year and the year after that and the year after that. And once they've been approved with Susquehanna once, they have a blanket approval policy, which means they don't have to go back through underwriting. I mean, unless if they haven't been making their payments on time, obviously there might be some issues to getting any additional financing. But as long as they make their payments on time, they've already, you know, had a deal in place, they can add things very easily. What does that mean to you? It means there's a reason, again, for your clients to come to you for those add-ons instead of losing takeover business to a competitor. And on top of that, it shows them that you are in your focus is their best interest in having the most up-to-date security system available at any given period. You need to identify the specific benefits to that particular customer that you're talking to. So really show them how by doing the financing they can get more for their money. We're able to squeeze in more of these cameras that you're looking for. We're able to do more. Show them how it benefits them. Now, from the financial standpoint, there are certainly a variety, a host of benefits to the end user for tax purposes and, you know, general budgeting practices and things like that. Leave that to the experts if you don't feel comfortable. I'd say that one of the most challenging pieces that people have is not knowing the finance industry well enough when they go in to talk to customers. You don't have to be the expert, okay? So take that responsibility off your shoulders and use the resources available to you. Use the Susquehanna team. Call Donna. She will sit one of her bulldogs on it, and they will help you close it. The one-page application, really easy, really non-invasive, really not intimidating, okay? And then always provide them with, there are these folders. If you have not seen the Susquehanna folder, let me know and I can have some shipped to you. They're these great packets that have really great literature and the application and the business card already attached to it. And that person that they would reach out to knows that this is part of a, you know, security industry TSA-IS program. Once you've done all of that, you've given them the application, have them either return it to you, or sometimes they feel more comfortable sending it directly to the bank. They don't always feel like you need to know their financial situation. So feel free to just direct them to fax it in directly, that's fine, or email it to Donna, that's fine too. Let Donna know that there's one on the way. And then that way, once you know that it's expected, you'll get that quick turnaround for underwriting and processing approval like we talked about. Once you have found out that they are pre-approved, send them over your proposal to Susquehanna, because basically your purchase order will actually be generated by Susquehanna Bank. It won't come from the end user. So at this point, you're almost treating Susquehanna like the customer. The end user is a decision maker, but Susquehanna needs all the paper trail. They will double check the status. So once everything is up to date, they'll let you know what's going on. They will finalize any of the final payment terms and agreements. They'll deal with all of that. Typically, they'll email the client directly and just copy you. Again, because you don't want to be a bottleneck, and you also don't want to feel that pressure, of knowing all the things to say and how to explain all the documentation. Let them do that. Once the originals are received, the purchase order is submitted to you, the integrator. Then once you receive it, you order your equipment, you install the system. Once it's been installed, you notify them, and they'll submit submit your invoice to Susquehanna. Once you've submitted the invoice, they will then verify that the system's been installed. And once it's been installed, they will, once it has been installed, they will satisfy the agreement and wire the funds to you same day. The ongoing processes for the financing include collecting from your customer on a monthly basis. Susquehanna handles that. They can upgrade their system at any time during the term, and they'll notify you when that contract is approaching its expiration. So if you signed them up for a 36-month contract and 30 months in, you will receive a notification, so that way you know, okay, it's about to expire. They're going to either have an extra $1,000 a month in their pocket, or if I can go back and sell more to them, I can continue that process, keep them at that budgeted amount, and then simply make another sale. A little bit briefly about specific vertical markets. Don't have a whole lot of time to explore these in great detail, but the thing I do want to touch on is that Susquehanna has a variety of government municipal programs that are designed to make it an attractive option for public entities. So it makes their rates more competitive. It gives them sort of a guarantee, because I think if you work in the school system, you know that buying decisions are made each year on an annual basis. The budget is approved annually. So they have, no obligation. They require vendors to have no obligation that if that line item is not approved in next year's budget, it won't happen. The money won't come in. And Susquehanna assumes that risk. There's no recourse back to you if the school district or whomever you sold to that's in that program doesn't pay or that budget doesn't get approved. What's done is done. But fortunately, because Susquehanna has such competitive rates and there's so much value to be had in these programs, that hasn't been as much of an issue. In addition to the government and education programs I mentioned, this is a great option for retail clients because they have lots of locations. Things are constantly changing. They're going to want to stay consistent in their budgeting and at the same time have what they need. So that's a great avenue for them. And in general, the enterprise commercial market, it's just one of those where you have to identify, again, what bucket are they pulling from? Are they using operational money or capital money? And once they have a good feel for those things, or you have a good feel for where they stand with those things, Susquehanna will help recommend the right program. So again, these are the resources. This is a link I'll send out with the calculator. It's a great tool for you. And you can always use some of the literature that we've provided to you that talks about the benefits of a monthly payment. So right now I want to open it up to questions because it is important that you guys ask these questions. You don't want to be in a situation where you're not presenting this option to your clients because you don't feel comfortable, because you don't know enough. You also don't want to be in a situation where you do so and then you misinform somebody or you don't know where to get the answers you need. All right, great question. The first question we have is, what are the typical interest rates? Are they competitive? Short answer, yes, they're competitive. The calculator, you'll see, I think it typically estimates somewhere between 9.75% and 10% annual interest, and that's very competitive. I mean, your customers to go to their local bank and ask for a similar finance deal, chances are the bank will take longer to process. It might be more difficult, even if they bank at that particular bank. But because Susquehanna is really focused on this program, it makes it a little bit easier, and they're able to be competitive. And then, as I mentioned, the municipal programs, they have rate discounts even beyond that. So I'm not sure exactly what the average rate might be for those, but it's definitely advantageous. Okay, the next question is, why do you call it financing versus a lease? Is there a difference? Good question. It is different. Financing and leasing are two different terminology, pieces of terminology. They're two different meanings. To finance something, it's much like if you buy a car versus lease a car. If you buy a car, you own it. You claim the depreciation over your asset at the end of the year. You bought it. Okay, that's more of like a capital expense. So if you're dealing with a customer that's wanting to work with a capital budget, a finance is the best way to do that. If you have a customer who wants to work out of an operational budget, a lease is, in a lot of cases, the best way to handle that. Because a lease is more like you're utilizing the equipment. You're using the services. You're using it. You're operating with it, and that's why it might come out of an operational budget. So basically the difference there is that if you have a client that would want to deduct their payments for the lease as like a business expense, they can do that a little bit more so with the operational lease than with the capital finance. With the capital finance, they can deduct the interest paid, right? But it's a little bit different. So again, I'm not even the expert on this stuff. So use Donna, use her staff to help you, really get comfortable, confident. And I would just, the next project you're working on, the next deal you're quoting, quote a monthly payment. Just try it. Use the calculator. Give them a monthly payment quote. And that really, everybody, thank you for your time again today. I know we try to keep these to 30 minutes, and there are some other questions. Feel free to call if you want to really discuss some of these questions that are pretty detailed. So give us a call, and we'll be happy to discuss those items with you. Thank you for your time. Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.